Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to my talk, Big Data Opportunity in the FinTech Space. Before I start, I want to take a moment to thank NewMet Data for giving me this opportunity to speak. This webinar is co-hosted by NewMet Data, a job training program for data scientists. You can learn more at newmetdata.com. So let's get started. A little bit about myself. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Camino Financial. I'm responsible for building the technology infrastructure that supports our business operations and also financial operations. We are an alternative online lender that matches small businesses to affordable loans. Today, we have lent millions of dollars to aspiring small business leaders in a variety of industries, more specifically in the Hispanic market. So a lot of people ask, what started this fintech revolution? The answer is simple. It is happening because banks haven't changed too much in the last 50 years or so. Sure, we have come a long way from invention of money, but the last major technology breakthrough coming from a bank is the invention of ATM, and that was 1967. They're literally waiting to be disrupted, okay? Banks have been about trust back in the days, but they have lost it. Trust has always been a huge entry barrier for startups who are lacking physical presence. Financial crisis in 2008 created a shift in the dynamics of trust. Over the past 70 years, 20 of the world's biggest banks have paid more than $200 billion in fines due to misconduct. Not only that, consumers are spoiled. Our expectations and appetite have changed with the rise of many on-demand, app-driven services that are created by startups around the world. Services like Uber, Grubhub, Snapchat are changing the way we travel, eat, and communicate. Banks do not live up to that new paradigm of consumer expectation. Also, the rise of millennials make things worse for large banks and large corporations. Millennials are tech-savvy and have no patience for nonsense. Now, here's a great infographic which depicts the current state of things. Banks are being picked apart by startups and mid-sized technology companies. As you can see, some of the key verticals include lending, payment, wealth management, retail banking, treasury functions. The industry right here is what we call the fintech space, okay? Now, here's the million-dollar question. How does big data play a role in this revolution? All right, in general, I see four opportunities in these sectors. The first one, credit score. This one is huge, especially for us at Camino Financial. So traditional banks approve home mortgages and personal loans based on your credit scores that are computed by credit bureaus. While fintechs, on the other hand, are doing things very differently. What they're doing is they're combining tens of thousands of data points per consumer to compute a credit score. And that's a drastic difference, okay? And various sources of data can include, social media signals, online previews, all right, to even like numbers on utility bills, QuickBooks, cash flow, bank statement, etc. Right, the list goes on. For most fintech companies, the key differentiator will always be the scoring model in the credit scoring sector. That would be the secret sauce, okay? Marketing is another area that makes good use of data science application. With all the data out there about the user, software can tailor online offering based on context. Targeting your users digitally has never been easier, all right? This hugely improves customer acquisition and customer loyalty. For instance, there's a company called Personetics. It's a software predicts and personalizes insights when user logs on, right? And when the user logs on along the way, you will guide users through all the relevant interactions. And the software is pretty smart too. It's self-learning, okay? All right, and then the next sector is risk op management. Okay, this is another huge area. Okay, it's all about fraud detection and fraud prevention. All right, and I will get deeper into this as I'll be presenting a case study later in this area. And last but not least, there another area is called investment management. All right, this one's pretty huge, right? What it does is that it makes investment extremely painless and easy. All right, its computer software determines the client's risk profile and builds a portfolio that mimics the overall stock market and saves the investor money through tax-efficient investment choices and even account setups. So these are the 4 areas, and let me present the first case study. Oh, before I do that, here is a slide that gives you a little bit more detail on what I just talked about. Okay, it has some of the companies that they are very big in the space, but most of them are startups. Okay, so let me present the first case study. This company, Billguard. Raphael Ozan started his company with one simple question: when is the last time you check your bills and credit card statements? The fact is that most of us don't. How many times have you gotten screwed, by those fine prints, right? All these scammy charges. So anyway, he came up with an idea to use software to do the checking. His tagline for his software product was "People Power Antivirus for Bills." His approach was very simple. He combined consumer complaints found online, right, with things like bad charges in statements crowdsourced from his users via an app, right? And he did really well for himself. So his company, for $30 million after 4 years to prosper is another online lender. Now, the next case study is Zest Finance. This company is fairly interesting. It was formerly known as Zest Cash and was founded by Douglas Morrell in 2009. He was, I believe, an executive at Google at the time. But of course, he left and started his company with a few other people. In fact, the company is based in LA, if I'm not wrong. The company is about underwriting payday loans with big data. His claim to fame is that with his underwriting and custom credit scoring, he can qualify more loans than the conventional lenders with a much, much lower default rate. And his company claims that there is no human intervention in the credit underwriting, and everything is driven by big data. All right, and to compute a score, they collect about, I would say, tens of thousands of data points according to my research. And so the thing is with Zest Cash, they went through several iterations with their big data approach, and basically Zest Cash used to run just one big data underwriting model that looked up thousands of variables. But now, with this new infrastructure, it runs multiple big data models in parallel, so you can look at more data points to more accurately determine whether a person's a good candidate for credit. And here is sort of a diagram that kind of explains what they're doing behind the scenes. I'm pretty sure it's outdated by now, but this gives you sort of a picture. They run about 10 unique underwriting models simultaneously that consumes thousands of raw data elements, including the third-party data, and also data collected from borrowers, of course. The model then transforms the data into tens of thousands of useful made-up variables to assess key customer behavior such as fraud, short-term and long-term credit risk, or the amount of money a borrower will likely repay. The models are then assembled to arrive at a final underwriting decision. They act more accurately predict credit risk. And some of this data include, cell phone contract, credit history, and even rental information. And just a side note, okay, more recently, Chinese investors have taken a lot of interest in US fintech companies. You might have heard that companies like Lending Club, right, have received a lot of funding from China. And so did Zest Finance. They got funding from two prominent Chinese investors. First of them is called JD.com, and the other one is Baidu. They're all very big in China. JD.com is one of the biggest e-commerce company in China, their rival Alibaba. And in exchange for funding, Zest Finance is providing technology solutions that can offer, new microloans options to Chinese consumers, particularly those who do not have credit history and other credentials traditionally required to get a credit card or other financial options. So using Zest Finance, machine learning underwriting technology, credit decision is being made based on consumer shopping data on JD.com, and that is crazy, okay? And the other one, Baidu, is also taking a big interest in Zest Finance. The deal is a part of an agreement that will see Baidu use Zest Finance technology to develop a credit scoring platform based on its search data. Think about that. That's important in a market like China where traditional credit systems are broken and there is precious little formalized credit history data while many people don't use banks heavily or are underbanked. With the internet becoming mainstream in China, which has the largest web population on the planet, new opportunities to vet and verify potential customers for credit have emerged. So, with these giant innovations in the space, what are banks doing about it? Okay, the last 2 years has been a real wake-up call for banks. They are doing a lot to learn and catch up. In general, the trend that we're seeing is that banks are now more open to cooperations with fintech companies. Some of the better fintech companies, get bought by banks. And some banks are also beginning to innovate by developing fintech groups in-house. Just for instance, OnDeck, an alternative online lender, has a partnership with Chase. BlackRock acquired Future Advisor for $150 million to expand its business. And Citigroup has multiple fintech labs. They're doing extremely well and in fact profitable. And I want to take a deeper look at Capital One, okay? I have fond memories of Capital One. Back in the 90s, my first credit card was a Capital One credit card. As a student, I didn't have any credit history, but the $200 limit credit card that I got, helped me build my credit history and then allowed me to move towards cards with higher credit limit. And Camino One was even able to offer me a very flexible credit card in which I can pick my own interest rates and rewards program. So how are they able to do all this, right? So Capital One is one of the true pioneers in using data, even before the term big data or fintech became popular. Since its inception, Capital One has been using sophisticated data collection methods to tailor products and services to individual customer needs, all right? In the 90s, when most of the credit card industry was characterized by uniform pricing, Capital One founders used statistical models based on publicly available credit and demographic data. The objective was to determine the base combination of product price and credit limit that could be offered to its customers. At the call centers, they have access to their homegrown software, and that can analyze a range of information about the person who is calling, even before their call center agents pick up the phone. Now, this brings me to the second key differentiator about Capital One. While most banks out there, outsource their operations to developing countries, like India, the bank, Capital One, chooses to build software in-house. This ensures that they can crank out innovation, really good software that closely supports their business operation. And then they can deliver that new digital capability to their customers. And last but not least, they focus on building a strong digital talent pool by investing in campus recruiting early on, and they're also acquiring, a number of startups that has these talents already in-house. And they have a solid hiring process to ensure they bring on the people with the right fit. Now, did you know American Express employs about 800 data scientists globally? All right. Their initial focus is to apply big data towards risk management, and they've done so really well. They have built capabilities of evaluating thousands of data points in milliseconds in order to detect fraud. Then, the next thing they really focused on was they applied big data to marketing, all right? Championing ideas like one-click cross-sell opportunities, right? And annually, they process more than $1 trillion in charge volumes. Think about that scale for a second. As an organization, it was definitely not easy to transform themselves into a company with big data culture. American Express is an old company. For them, initially, switching over to the new way of doing things was difficult but necessary. For them, it took time to adjust to that. And the other lesson learned is that next thing they have to find the talent that will support this big data-driven operation, much like Capital One did in the past. And finally, they took that iterative approach, to really test and learn along the way, because you can't just deploy, big data solutions like that. You sort of need to see how everything reacts to the solution, and now, they have seen big data is bringing about a tremendous positive change within their organization, making great impact. They have allocated even more budgets into building their big data team. So, what is the future, right, for fintech artificial intelligence? One thing for sure, there's going to be more regulation. The government will step in. They will look at what everybody's doing, and then they want to make sure the consumers are protected, okay? There will definitely be more cutting-edge machine learning algorithm, right? Underwriting things with very little inputs, from public or private data sources, and the other thing is there will be more virtual currency technology, blockchain, Bitcoin are definitely getting hot, although they have been some concerns here and there. But I think once the technology becomes more mature and people are starting to adopt it, it will take off just like that. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, there will be more partnership with banks, as we're seeing right now. It's kind of happening left and right, and the other thing is, with all these things now online, they are more prone to be hacked. There are a lot of hackers out there looking for opportunities to disrupt, to make a headache for everybody. But the good news is, I guess, there's more data scientist jobs, in fintech more than ever for everybody. So that's what I think where the future is headed. So this is pretty much the gist of my presentation, and I'm now open for questions. So let's see if we have any. All right, I got a question. So question one, what are the typical machine learning models, right, using credit scoring building, right, Zest Finance, for example? So this is a good question, which, I don't have an answer for at the moment. I mean, I have heard, things like supervised learning is very popular. I'm sure that was definitely one of the approach. And as you could see on the slide earlier, right? I mean, they have broken out one big data model to like several small ones, and one of each kind of focusing on one sort of dimension. So, I guess for fraud detection, it could be using a very different approach than something like credit underscoring. So yeah, and this is usually very closely guarded by companies themselves. They don't usually want to share the parameters they're using in their credit scoring modeling. So yeah, I wish I had more insight. Yeah, but I guess that's what I know, and that's what I can share with you right now. All right. Any more questions? All right, so I got another question. Somebody wants to know about like what kind of data sources are useful. And another follow-up question is when we acquire data from other external sources, how do we determine the quality of the data? So a lot of the online lenders these days, they are using information from Yelp, Trust Profile, and some of the online review platforms to kind of evaluate either a business or a person, see what their creditworthiness is. I guess to the quality part is kind of critical. And what I know from other data scientists have worked in this area is that to really ensure consistency and accuracy in the data, proper cleansing in the first place is very critical. And then what you want to do is follow that MX big data approach, a very iterative approach where you have some existing infrastructure in place using maybe conventional methods like even rule-based approach to kind of measure against what you're doing with data science applications. And that is sort of a good way to see, okay, is your big data approach making sense? Because at the end of the day, big data is garbage in, garbage out, right? You can collect a ton of data, but if they're bad and you have nothing to sort of benchmark against, then there's really no way of knowing, how good they are because it's just too much data to work through and figure out. Yeah, so that answers the question about the kind of data sources and also how do we ensure quality. I have another question about using Spark Hadoop. Yes, Hadoop was the poster child for big data from, I would say, 5-10 years ago. But more recently, Spark has been sort of the new kid in town, and it's very easily accessible online on Amazon Web Services, and very easy to write code for. I believe you can write your code in Python and a variety of other languages. So yeah, that's that's sort of the technology framework you'll be using. I have another question. What types of modeling are we using in Camino? That's a good question, and unfortunately, I can't get too much into it. All I can say is that we're using a very innovative approach, in a market segment where traditionally Hispanic people don't do a lot of online transactions with, because they prefer using cash. So we've come up with a very, very innovative and proprietary algorithm to kind of underwrite the Hispanic market. All right, so the next question is, what is the volume of data in Camino Financial? That's a good question. We, we're definitely seeing a rise in volume, but I guess our approach is very unique. We don't deal with just big data. We do a little bit of a conventional sort of underwriting approach, but of course we combine that with big data approach. But we are very careful about what goes into our model, and I think that's the best way because you know tip, just as I mentioned earlier, it's all garbage in, garbage out, and we're taking like baby steps when it comes to engaging somebody's credit profile. This is to ensure that our default rate stays low. We can continue to offer competitive product to our clients. So yep, so that's that. The next question is, at Camino, do we use probabilistic graphical models for classification? At the moment, we are not, but that's something we will look into down the road. That's a very interesting approach. Okay, any other questions? Let's see. All right, so I guess we're not seeing any more questions. I do want to say a couple things about our opening. We're Camino Financial. We're currently hiring. We're hiring for a number of different positions. We are looking for data scientists to come on board and help us expand our data platform. We are also hiring, software engineers to join our team. We are on the credit and sales side. They are also hiring, for loan processor, credit analyst, and sales agent on our team. So basically, we're on hiring mode in all front. So if you're very interested in talking with us more, please send me your resume or connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah. Oh, I got more questions. So for what languages does our company prefer when it comes to software programming? So we're pretty much open source. We love Python and R. These are great softwares that can help us build. But in general, like since we're kind of small at the moment, we love people coming in with new insights and new skill set to help us be that very unique company that can provide great digital solutions to our clients. So we don't really have a strong preference, but at this point we're just looking for talent. Yeah, so another question here I have, if the model gives you a yes for the credit decision, is there a human intervention afterwards, or is it fully automated decision? So we are at the moment using human intervention to kind of double check things, but theoretically, like we can overnight automate everything and just let things run on its own. But we're like I said, we're a fairly new company, and we're doing something that's very innovative, and we want to be responsible in giving out our loans. So yeah, we are definitely taking a more conservative approach, but I do see automation anywhere from 3 to 6 months down the road. But at the moment, the prequel part is real time, and that's 100% automated. All right. So next question is do you think social data sets from web API data, such as Facebook's sets, will make contribution to models? Yes, I believe so. In fact, I think Facebook, Twitter, they're all great source of data, especially when it comes to data science applications. The only thing you know I would caution against is that what exactly that you want to use from those Twitter or Facebook streams. I mean, there's a lot of information, and you need to kind of pinpoint like what is it they're looking for, right? I mean, sentiment analysis is great, but I don't think. I mean, at this point, I don't think it's very applicable at least for us. But things like number of likes, and those kind of things are actually very, very useful. So yeah. Anyway, so another question I have is, what do you do, for example, on a daily basis? So like I mentioned earlier, I'm the chief technology officer for Camino Financial. Typically, my day is pretty busy. I put in a good 12 hours a day, and I can be working on software to managing our teams to ensuring security within a company. I wear a lot of hats within company. I'm also the chief security officer for the company. Um, I work very closely with the credit team to actually build that credit model. And so yeah, typical day is very, very busy. But it's good though. It's I love the challenge. And the team works really good together, and I think we're behind a really solid mission. All right, and then I have another question here. What kind of background of Canada would be a good fit for Camino? I would say, right off the bat, somebody who really cherishes that startup culture and spirit would be a giant checkbox to be fulfilled. I would say that because I've worked in a lot of different companies, big and small, and some people just thrive in Fortune 500 companies. They like working in a very established place. The processes, the software, everything is provisioned. In a startup environment, it is much different. Like you have to sort of be on a lookout for anything and everything, and just kind of tackle problems as they come and be really resourceful in everything. And some people thrive in that. So we're definitely looking for people, you know, with experience and wanting to make a mark in this world, in this space. All right, so that's that. And then the next question is, uh, so how much time? I guess this is a question if the person were to come in for a data science job. How much time would be spent on data science, and how much time would be spent on data processing? Uh, that's a good question. I think at this stage, we're sort of early, and it's kind of hard to say, right off the bat, it's going to be a 70-30 split for data science and data processing. I would say it would kind of vary depending on the project that we're working on. If right now we have some sort of, I don't know, I guess marketing campaign that will require us to do to use a lot of data, and that data is not clean, and then I would say 70% of that time is on data processing, and the rest of the time is on building data science models. So I'm sure it will vary, just because we're early startup. I don't know if any of you guys have read. We just sent out a press release. We closed the funding for $2 million, and so we are we're still at C stage, but we're just trying to be really proactive when it comes to like getting things done during the day. Yeah. So I get. And then another question is how much time data scientist spends cleaning data. So again, that kind of depends on the project. And another question: what are the main problems and challenges that your current data science team faces day to day? I would say some of the more prominent challenges that we see are that sometimes we do get fraudulent cases, fraudulent applications, and at the moment, the fraud detection portion is largely manual. I mean, there's an effort being made too to kind of automate that and have a big data solution, but it's just that we're kind of in the beginning, but we would love to have a data science scientists come in and help us, tackle that. And then I guess the other thing is that from a credit scoring standpoint, I think we're doing pretty good. I don't see we have a lot of problem in that area. We are though trying to look at other really alternative sources of data for credit scoring, and of course, to do something like that, you got to kind of step in and do a lot of experimentation, and that's something that has yet to be done. So I don't see that as a problem, but I just see that as a thing to be done down the road. All right, next question is, when predicting probably a success on a loan, how can confidence prediction intervals play into decision at your firm? For this question, that's a really good one. I actually don't have a very good answer at the moment. What I can tell you is we do have client profiles from our previous loans, right? And things that we have done traditionally, there is a data trail. And so what we would do is, we'll measure our outcome for a loan decision with what we have done in the past and measure what the default rate is. And that's, that feedback has to be there consistently to ensure continuing success on the probability of predicting a loan that will be paid over time. So other than that, I mean, I don't see any other good way. Another approach that I've heard is, there is data out there that you can purchase, and I would say those also would be good indicators and also good way to kind of benchmark the process. All right, so any more questions? Okay, so it looks like people don't have any more questions. No, I really want to thank you guys for getting up early to listen to my talk. It's been a really great pleasure to be kind of sharing some of the insight in the fintech AI space. Love all the questions there. They're very, very good. So I just want to let you know, this coming Wednesday, I'm doing another session. It will be in the evening. We will be sending out more information about that if you haven't seen it. So you definitely sign up for that if you want to learn more about what we do at Camino Financial or anything that you kind of want to discuss that I haven't covered today. I'm more than happy to share what I know. All right. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure. Bye now.